It's time for A-Day and spring practice. What should Auburn fans expect from Auburn during that time?
Midweek Report coming at you, brought to you by our friends at the Rage Room. If you're in the Opelika, Auburn area, visit them at 1510 2nd Ave, Opelika, Alabama. And if you're in the Birmingham area, 2616 7th Ave South, downtown Birmingham. Look, the tournament is over, but that doesn't mean you can't still rage. Just make sure you do it with our friends at the Rage Room, longtime sponsors of the War Report. Guys, join the Green Name Gang. We appreciate you guys for supporting us. We travel to every tournament site, myself, Ike Jones, and our photographer, bringing you guys all the moments. This was made possible in part by your support here. $5.99 a month to continue that work here. Media Days is coming, so we will be in Atlanta, bringing you all the latest Media Day coverage. Again, you can help support that work by joining up. Hit that join button, $5.99 a month. You can also give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. Help us grow our community during this live stream. Let's see if we can get 30 given away today. Hit that gifted membership button and watch your email. If you're not a part of the Green Name Gang, you may receive a random email from YouTube saying that you've been selected to be on the receiving end of one of these memberships. We appreciate our community for doing that. Also, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Our guy Richard put a little something special in there for all you guys going over and using code REPORT. Also, guys, check us out on podcasts. Every single podcast platform, we are there bringing you lots of great audio-only content. The Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec pods, bringing you football content at the gym, at work, on the way to pick your kids up from school. You can listen to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Mike G, we're back talking football, man. It feels like a very long time since we talked football. I mean, it was the beginning of spring, and we kind of gave a quick preview of what was going to be happening during spring, and it's already over. A-Day is coming up this weekend, and you talked a little bit this morning already about this a little bit, so we'll dive straight into the conversation about everybody's favorite position in all of football, and that is the quarterback. There's only two of them. There's not some room of four guys where they're trying to rotate and figure out and blah, blah, blah. It is Jackson Arnold is the starter. Deuce Knight is number two. And by all reports, both of those young men are looking good. Deuce Knight way ahead of schedule. What are your thoughts on the Auburn quarterback room going into A-Day? We'll talk a little bit more specifically about A-Day in a minute. But what are your thoughts about the quarterback? Again, you talked about this morning. Let's just go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, let me start with Jackson Arnold. Not surprised to hear that he's doing well. Now, if you watch the show, I know it feels like eons since we've talked football, but look, man, Jackson Arnold is a five-star guy. He's got five-star talent. I think a lot of people were writing him off based on things he didn't do at Oklahoma, but they were a floundering offense last year.
Yeah.
Oklahoma was a mess last year offensively, and Jackson Arnold suffered from that, which is why he hit the portal.
Right.
To be clear. So I think Jackson Arnold can get it done in the system, and I'm very happy to hear that he's doing well. From what I understand, I haven't got the exact number on him, but he has no more than 3 interceptions, possibly only 2 this spring.
Which, so let's underscore they're getting a lot of reps because again, there's only 2 of them. So it's not like he's only thrown 20, 30 passes. Like we're
Right.
talking about a lot of reps out there in these scrimmages and a lot of mistake-free football happening from the quarterbacks. But continue.
Mm. Both quarterbacks are getting significant reps versus the ones. So if you're thinking, oh well, who's going against the one? Like they're both going against the ones and the twos.
Yeah.
They're only 2 quarterbacks. There is absolutely no reason not to get Deuce Knight reps against the ones. So they're going it. And I think that's why they're finding out that Deuce is way ahead of schedule. But look, man, at the end of the day, you've got Jackson Arnold that is, man, I mean, I think Auburn is a really good situation at quarterback going into the fall. Right. Like, so we'll see what it looks like, how crisp he looks during 8A. I just, we're going to get a weird format and we'll talk about that later. But I think Jackson Arnold is the guy. And so I don't want anybody to hear a quarterback. I don't think there's any quarterback controversy.
No. Listen, it's Jackson Arnold all the way.
He should be the guy, and he should be. He should be.
Yeah, he's the only one that has had any starting experience, and that starting experience has been in the SEC. So it's not as if you don't know how it's going to translate or any. Like they had a lot of common opponents last year, so it is Jackson Arnold's job. I won't even say to lose because I don't know that he could do enough to lose the job, particularly in the way that they're conducting these practices and the formats of what's happening. I think that, the only way he loses this is if he plays poorly during the season. He's not going to lose this going into the season because he's the guy.
Right.
And let's be clear, he's got all the physical tools too, right? Deuce Knight is physically gifted. Jackson Arnold was a 5-star plus athlete as well, with a heck of a lot of what people are saying, which I don't know why this is, but they're saying deceptive speed. And I'm like, did you guys not watch him play last year and see how he was running away from defenders in the SEC? Like, no, Jackson Arnold's an athlete, bro. Like he can go out, he can go out there and get it done in every aspect of the game in which Coach Hugh Freeze needs his quarterbacks to be able to operate. So designed runs or off schedule stuff, Jackson Arnold has all of that. He's got all of the arm talent. He's got all of the processing and ability. He just needs to have a better offensive line around him and more consistent weapons around him, which we'll get into the weapons. Those are not in short supply at Auburn this year. Even if you have some injuries, Auburn's cupboard is stacked full of talent. Should not be a problem for him this year in terms of that. But yeah, Jackson Arnold can get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, now, Deuce Knight. Deuce, extremely talented. The thing that I like about this situation was there were a bunch of people last year that were, and rightfully so, wondering how is Walker White going to climb the depth chart?
Yeah.
Where there's seemingly people with more experience always in front of him, and that person, that portal QB is always looming to come in. Right. How was Walker White going to climb? And I think that Walker saw, I don't know how I'm going to do it. So, he dipped. And he had to get into a situation where he could be in the kind of situation maybe that Deuce Knight is in right now. So, Deuce is your future. And at some point, you have to keep a QB in the system, man. Yeah. At some point, you can't keep going to the portal for a QB. It's got to be a guy who, and this is, I point to Florida last year. Right? They started with Graham Mertz. And they had DJ Lagway in the system. They got him in. I hope that Auburn's not going to Deuce Knight midseason for any reason.
Yeah, because there's
no knock to Deuce.
Yeah, this is the same thing I said last year in terms of Peyton Thorne. You have to expect your starting quarterback or hope that your starting quarterback is actually productive, because there's only 2 reasons you go to the backup, and that is poor play and injury. And nobody wants to be in a position where your starting quarterback is gone for either of those reasons. The first of those reasons, your season is probably going disastrously wrong, right? Because if they're turning to, which we saw by game 3, a backup quarterback, that means your first 2 games are just not what they needed to be. And we don't want to see that. The other portion is injury, and I don't ever want to see anybody get injured out there.
Correct.
So, Deuce Knight not playing his freshman year more than a couple of games so he can redshirt, completely fine with that.
Yeah. I don't think there's any good scenario I could come up with for Auburn where Deuce Knight is taking over as quarterback this year. Yeah. I mean, chat, help me out. If you guys see the positive scenario where Deuce Knight is taking over at quarterback, because here's the deal. Like, I know they probably paid a pretty penny for both these quarterbacks.
For sure.
But if you're Jackson Arnold, you're not coming here to compete for QB1.
No.
You're coming here to be QB1.
If you wanted to compete, you could have stayed at Oklahoma and fought it out with whoever they got over there. They were going to bring in the tier or blah. Like, yeah, if you wanted to compete, there's plenty of places you could do that. You hit the portal for a destination to be the guy.
If Hugh Freeze made that commitment to Jackson Arnold, he's not going to move off of it easily. And the thing that I think that it would take to move Hugh Freeze off of Jackson Arnold, that's a disaster scenario.
for both Jackson Arnold, Hugh Freeze,
Deuce,
all of the freaking,
that's a disaster
wide receivers in there. Like, there's nobody who benefits much from that right there. The only way I could see it ultimately being okay is if the pivot happens super early and Deuce Knight is amazing, right? And then, like, he rescues your season type of thing, where it's like, oh, I knew he's going to be good, but golly, man, like, this guy is phenomenal, and you go on some kind of crazy tear after you lose 2 of the first 4 or something like that.
But that's why I think it's important to distinguish, though. We're not saying there's no scenario where Deuce can't do well.
Right.
We're saying the set of circumstances at which you arrived there are a disaster.
Right.
There's no normal progression to Deuce Knight, the true freshman at quarterback, that doesn't involve something going disastrously wrong.
You're absolutely sounding the alarms the minute that starts to happen. You're like, what is about to be? Because also, let's be clear about this. There are only 2 quarterbacks getting reps right now. And Ashton Daniels is coming, but he's going to be coming in the summer. And, though he has a lot of experience, like, I don't know that you really want to live in a world where it is Deuce Knight / Ashton Daniels as your quarterback room, and you feel super comfortable about where you are with that, because again, Deuce Knight's been performing really well. And if you want to hear more of those thoughts, Mike G talked a little bit about this morning with Charlie 5. You can get more in depth into that conversation about Deuce Knight and his performance, and we'll talk about it some more here. But he's been performing well during the spring, but non-contact jersey. They're not, it's not live fire, right? It is one of those situations where 7-on-7 and all. And again, that doesn't mean that you can't perform. Like, you still want to see them perform well in those situations. And from the things that I've been hearing, like, he's out there throwing dots. Like, it's not just, oh, he hasn't thrown an interception. Like, no, he's throwing dots. He's like, it's one of those things where DBs are like, I don't know what you wanted me to do against that. Like, he put that in a place where I can't defend that without going through the receiver type of thing. Yeah. And so that's encouraging to hear that it's not just he's operating and being risk averse, which is great, but he's excelling. Like, he's doing things where it's like, yo, wow, that's a hell of a throw, bro. Like, I don't know what you want me to do about that one, coach. And those types of things make you feel as if, okay, if for some reason, yes, it's in good hands. But let's be clear again. That is not something you today, April the 9th, are rooting for to happen for Auburn. Is, oh man, I just want to see Deuce Knight get in there. No, I don't, because I want to see the guy who's QB1 be successful. Can we make it through a season and not have a golly, man? What are we doing at quarterback conversation? Like, I don't want to go through that again this fall.
Yeah, we talked about Hugh Freeze's system being a difficult one to pick up, right? It's not an easy system. The other reports coming out are that both quarterbacks are taking the system really, really well.
Yep.
Right? They're going through their progressions. They're understanding the terminology. They are soaking this in really, really well. And both have progressed faster, I think, than the coaches had anticipated, which allows you to move on to more complex ideas.
Right.
Right. So they're taking in the base of what Hugh Freeze's system in. And Hugh Freeze talks about this a lot. He said this a lot during the season. I don't think it was just like fan talk, like coach speak, but he talked about being able to coach it better and teach it better. And my source tells me that they are doing that. Like the players feel like they understand what's being put in front of them a lot better than they did last year. Now, is that a result of just being 1 year more mature in the system with these coaches? Yes, to some extent, but they have changed their approach to teaching. And I like this. I mean, if you're an Auburn football fan, you've got to love this.
Sorry to interrupt you, but Coach Hugh Freeze talked about this in his initial press conference, right? He's like, they're leaning more into the teaching portion during this spring than they were last time, because I think he realized, okay, if I want them to perform at a bit, like we've got the athletes, right? Like, so whether or not they can physically go out there and do it, not a question. I need them to not think so much and let their athletic ability just kind of take over. So let's lean into the mental portion of this and really make sure they understand concepts, alignment, assignment, all of those things, so that when they go out there and they do it on the field, they have a better understanding of what I'm asking them to do. And we can move more quickly once we get to the fall. Like spring is really going to be about the mental portion. The fall is where we're going to tune it up physically and really try to get in there and make sure that they can play at 100% speed. And I'm hoping that pays dividends because they feel good or better about where they are this early into the process.
Yeah. Look, I want to take everybody back to something Hugh Freeze said when he got hired. He said, if we're not in the top 6 or 7 in recruiting by year 3, everybody here is going to be looking for a job. Now, we're not talking about recruiting, but there is a significance on the progress that you have to make in year 3 as a program, as a coach. You get a year to kind of build a foundation, another year to continue to recruit and finish up kind of the frame of the house. And by year 3, you better be ready to turn the lights on. By year 3, the electrician has hooked everything up, and the code enforcement has come by and says you can open for business.
Right. Do you want to be Auburn's scoreboard project where it's going along pretty much as people expect it to be, or do you want to be Vanderbilt Stadium that is a construction zone for 2.5 years?
Yeah, and part of that is making sure that you're getting the production from the quarterback position, which they have not gotten consistently over the first 2 years.
Right.
Now, it did improve from year 1 to year 2.
For sure.
Peyton Thorne was a much better quarterback from year 1 to year 2. The problem was he regressed in year 1.
From where he was at Michigan State as far as
right.
are concerned.
And then came back to about what we expected in year 2. And it just didn't. And because of coaching blunders, it didn't result in a bunch of wins. But in year 3, you've done too well in recruiting. You've gotten every resource, Ike. They have opened the checkbook and said, hey, go get who you need. And let me tell you something. If you thought that checkbook was open before, after June the 30th, it's going to be hella open. $18 million open. And I've talked about this over Locked on UCF. We've talked about it here. $20.5 million. And Auburn is going to fill that coffer like that. 2.5 to cover scholarships over the Olympic sports, 74 additional Olympic sports scholarships. That leaves you with $18 million to split. There is no mandate. There's no minimum that they have to give each program. I can spend all $18 million on football if they want to.
Yeah.
Now they won't. However, we know that they're going to get
a hefty portion.
Yeah, there's 60% of that at minimum is going to go to football.
Yeah.
Now, we've also talked about the numbers that the programs produce. Auburn football produced in the most for the numbers that we have for the most recent financial year, $60 million in operating profit for Auburn football, $5 million for Auburn basketball, and only $11 million as an athletic department. So of the $65 million in profit that you made between football and basketball, you lost over $50 million on the other sports.
Yeah, you're two sports are subsidizing the other ones.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so football is going to get what they want.
Right.
That's how it's always going to be. I don't hear anybody complain about that. It doesn't mean nothing because, God, we're pretty strong advocates for women's basketball. You'd be surprised how little would take them very far.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the 7 figures for women's basketball. I'm talking about in the low 6s
right,
for Larry Vickers, and he could go out and land himself a squad. And when I say low 6s, I mean $300 to $400K, and he could go do some damage.
Right.
So that being said, this is a show me year for Hugh Freeze because you've been given everything a coach could want. Right? Unmitigated support from your AD. John Cohen, when Oklahoma came, I did the Feinbaum, and they were broadcasting out of the old athletic department in the old meeting room where we used to show team highlights. And I was sitting in there when John Cohen did his thing with Feinbaum, and me and Nathan King from 247 were sitting there. And this man did backflips to explain why Auburn football deserves patience. Well, you got to remember, there was a lot of turnover and all this stuff. I mean, look, I'm not saying some of what he was saying was true, but the extent to which he went to make excuses for this program and where they were at in the first 2 years, incredible. Fantastic 4 levels of just spin. But even he knows this year, you don't have to win a championship this year either. I want to say this. You don't even have to make the playoff. But you should be about where South Carolina was at the end of their season last year.
Right. In a legitimate conversation.
Yeah. What did they win? Their last 6 or something like that?
Yeah, I don't remember. But
they won their last like 6 or 7. Chat helped me out here. I don't feel like clicking on it, but like they won their last 6 games, and there was a lot of people who just said, "Man, I think these guys deserve to be in the conversation." They were one mishap from pulling off a comeback versus Bama last year.
Right.
When that dude almost brought that ball out of the end zone, and his dude saved his life, he was like, "Stop!" South Carolina almost pulled it off. And if you're Hugh Freeze, I think that's where you got to be because you got more resources than Shane Beamer. And you're Auburn. They're South Carolina. And if that sounds like South Carolina disrespect, it's because it is. It's supposed to be better than them. The only thing they should be better than Auburn at is women's basketball. So this is a show me year, and this is where I'm looking for Deuce and Jackson to look like competent QBs. Now, I encourage you to go watch the segment I did with Charlie Fobb this morning. One thing that he and I agree on is that if these guys don't look at least serviceable this year, one of 2 things are happening, if not both. You have an evaluation issue, and you have a development issue, or both.
Right.
But you're not going to be able to explain it away this year. That's why I'm so happy that the reports are coming out that these guys are doing well. Now, you guys know we have our sources, on what's going on. And I don't think it's any secret at this point that our sources a lot of the times are players.
Right.
Telling us how things are going. When it's going really, really bad, we don't much repeat that stuff. Because I'm not going to burn a player like that. But when it's going good, I've gotten these guys to be extremely honest with us, Ike, about what is what. And I'm telling you, I heard something from them this year that I did not hear last year. There was a difference in tone. There wasn't a ton of sunshine pump coming about quarterback last year from players. It was standard. We don't want to say too anything too negative, so let's just give him the standard media thing. This year, their tone's a little different. Actually, this year their tone's a lot different.
I mean, I think everybody has a different kind of level of optimism where they are right now. Between the additional levels of confidence that players who are back for another season have in a system with the same coordinators and all like that continuity that's there. And I think with the baseline level of talent that you have in the room, right? No disrespect again to Peyton Thorne, to Hank Brown, to Holden Geriner, to Walker White, who are in this, none of them who are in this quarterback room this year. It's completely different guys. No disrespect to them, because I do think that all of them have talent, but the baseline of where you're starting, we have this floor versus ceiling conversation. Now, I don't know performance wise where the floor and the ceiling for those two young men are in Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight, but I do know what the floor is like for them from an athleticism and pure like arm talent standpoint. And it's high. Again, no disrespect to any of those guys. Both of these young men have a higher floor from an athleticism and arm talent perspective. Holden Geriner, pro arm. Hank Brown, pro arm. I think Peyton Thorne has some pro level athleticism. Walker White definitely has pro level athleticism, ability, and a strong arm. But the combined talent of the athleticism, legs, running ability, and the arm together, higher floor for both of them than all four of those guys last year. And if they were honest, they would say you're right about that. Like that's not disrespectful. That's true. That doesn't mean that they will perform better on the field, but it does mean they have the tangible goods that most people look at and say, man, it's a good looking quarterback right there. You just see him throw and you're like, man, that's good. Like, but hey, there's a lot of guys who have that, who go out there and look terrible when it's time to actually play. So that doesn't mean you're a better football player, right? Freaking Peyton Manning couldn't run away from his shadow in broad daylight. Great quarterback. Like, it's just not the end all be. Tom Brady, I mean, he runs like a freaking sloth stuck in mud. Doesn't matter. He can play football, right? So I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, but the base level of just being able to go out there and spin it, being able to go out there and run away from guys who are putting pressure on you, they've got that in spades. The question is it going to translate? But it does also translate to when you're seeing them out there, put the pads on, throw it around. You're like, oh man, this guy really can spin it, bro. Like, it's just different. And it's going to be a different conversation around those guys.
Yeah. I love where Auburn is at this spring with quarterback. I really do. And I want to be clear. There is no quarterback controversy.
No.
Zero. Jackson Arnold is the starter. And there's absolutely nothing that's going to happen between now and the end of fall camp that's going to change that. The only thing that's going to change is in-game results in the season. And I'm in a place where I'm hoping that we're not having that conversation at all. Jackson could ball out. Deuce could be the guy. And maybe, do you remember what it was like when Nick Marshall was here? And Jeremy Johnson, I mean, I'm not wishing Jeremy Johnson results on Deuce. I'm just saying, we felt really, really good about Nick Marshall handing the baton to Jeremy Johnson.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Jeremy came in. He started the first half of, was it Arkansas that year, right? And threw for almost 300 yards and like 3 TDs and a half. Nick came off his marijuana suspension, finished the game. Auburn ran it up. We were like, yes, the future of Auburn football is bright.
Oh, but little did they know. But see, like Jeremy Johnson, an example of a guy with all the physical tools in the world, man.
But it was the first time in a while that Auburn fans felt good about the heir apparent, and that there was a clear heir apparent.
Right.
I'm getting clear heir apparent vibes from this QB room. Jackson Arnold, next up, Deuce Knight. And if Jackson struggles early, this year we got to stay out of this, the calling for the backup immediately thing. We
yeah, it's got to look.
Yeah,
it's
right.
got to
Like
look
this,
pathetic, like in order to be like, all right, yo, like
it's got
it's got to look like it did last year at Oklahoma, where you're like, well, maybe it wasn't Oklahoma, maybe it was you, my boy. Like,
yeah. Like he's got to throw like 6 picks versus Samford or something. I don't know who's the bad team on the schedule this year.
early in the year,
Early in the year, right? Yeah, like I mean, it's got to be it's got to be really bad. But this year's different from prior years. In prior years, when people wanted to see the backup, I felt like there was a strong basis for that. I thought that there was a decent argument to be made for, okay, let's see what the other guy can do. I don't think Auburn has that kind of situation this year.
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be Jackson Arnold. He's got to be given some leeway to grow in this system, right? As long as he's hitting the open guys, I could deal with mistakes, right? As long as he's not missing the open throws, as long as he's not missing Cam Coleman, as long as when Ike Jones puts out his Monday film review, we are not talking about dudes running wide open out on the field and he's taking a sack because he just didn't see a guy. If we're not talking about that, I'm good.
Yeah, you the standard can't be perfection. The standard can't be, this guy's got to go out there and throw for 400 every game. It needs to sometimes it needs to look like he only threw for 250 and had a pick, but man, did you see that one throw that he made in the clutch that got them the critical first down? Or we needed a drive to go get some points to extend the lead, and they went out there and they executed. The unfortunate reality is there was not a single game in the last 2 years where Auburn needed points, and I was like, they're gonna make it happen. There was not a single game in which that happened in the last 2 years. I never felt confident that they were going to get it done in the clutch last season. And that just can't be a reality year in and year out for Auburn football. I don't know what happened to Mike G. Dropped out here for a second. But that can't be the reality year in and year out for Auburn football, is where you just never feel like your team has the ability to go out there and make it happen in the clutch. Hopefully, Jackson Arnold can be one of those guys where it's like, nah, Jackson's gonna get it done. He's gonna get it done. He doesn't have to do it every time, but dang, man, can we have 1 or 2 of them? 1 or 2. That's all I'm asking for. All right. While we figure out what's going on with Mike G, it is time for us to get into our break. Anyway, I want to come and talk to you all. Get into your comments here. You are watching the midweek report. Make sure you share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageRoom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Yes, indeed. Thank you to the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who are part of Green Name Gang. Green Name Gang, y'all know off-season time means we are going to be diving into this film, and I still got plenty of film out here for y'all. Now that basketball season is done, I can refocus on getting y'all this Green Name Gang film out here for football. We're going to be talking about new players added to from the portal. We're going to be talking about guys from last year. We got all of that for y'all. So I am going to be getting into that here in the coming weeks. Make sure you get your membership active so you can get access to all of that great stuff. If you are a member and you want to give someone a membership, they can get a free month of membership on you and be able to get access to all of those great perks. Make sure you check out what we got going on around the podcast landscape. We are at the Auburn Express. We got the Uptempo Podcast, College Loop, and Just a Sec Pods, all right there for you all to check out. let's get over here into this comment section. Appreciate everybody who has jumped in here on the live today. I will start it off with Sean Brown with the super chat, who says, what are your thoughts on him not going to the Manning Passing Academy? Him being Jackson Arnold, who got the invitation to go to the Manning Passing Academy during the offseason and opted to stay in Auburn so that he could work with the other receivers that are there. He wanted to get more camaraderie with the receiving room in Auburn during the summer. And, you know, I think I like it. I think I like the idea that, listen, I've already said this. Jackson Arnold's got all the tools, man. Like, I don't know that a passing camp is going to help Jackson Arnold be able to throw the ball. Like, he can rip it. He has a quick release whenever if you've seen, I've done, for those of you who are Green Name Gang, I've already done some stuff on Jackson Arnold and some of his film from last year. And one of the first things I noticed when watching him, when Jackson Arnold decides this is where I'm going with the football, he gets it there in a hurry. Like the zip, the quick release is there. Like, it's not one of those things. And again, no disrespect to Peyton Thorne. I know I'm only comparing it to Peyton Thorne because that's the guy who was in the seat last year. And that's the most recent example we have of it. No disrespect to him, but noted that I talked about this a lot with Peyton Thorne, which is he's got to get better with his anticipation because he doesn't have the arm strength to be late and get it there on time. That is not the case with Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold can be a little late in his decision, but when he decides that's where he's going, it's getting there. And it's getting there in a hurry. He has a strong arm. Now, and I am not overrating this. Please go watch this film and see what I'm talking about. If you are part of Green Name Gang, there is a Jackson Arnold. There's, I think, 2 or 3 Jackson Arnold film reviews from last season. And he's got it.
That was part of the feedback that we got from the players so far this spring. Fantastic arm strength. I think a lot of them were shocked at his arm strength. So
yeah, it's just getting there, man. And that's an adjustment for receivers too, of like a window where it made last year you like, there's no way I'm getting this football, right? Type of thing. Or when it gets there, it's getting to you kind of, you like, oh, come on, before you have to like, no, it's like, bro, I didn't see his arm make the motion, but the ball is on me already. So you got to just run your route and be where you're supposed to be, because there's no tell. And I think that was some of the issues that some of the backup receivers last year with Oklahoma had with Jackson Arnold, is one of those things where it's like you're thinking, okay, my quarterback is going to look my way, and then, I'm going to get time to prepare and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like, when he flips his hips and he gets to you, if he thinks it's time, he's letting it go and the ball is there. It's on you. So you just need to run your route in anticipation of it might come my way. Because if he turns and he flips and he sees you open, it ain't nothing but a flick of the wrist and it's getting there.
The physical tools are there.
Yeah.
The physical tools are there. And like I said, I think Jackson maybe wasn't the big splashy name that a lot of people wanted in the portal, but there's a good chance that he might be just the right fit for Auburn at the right time.
Yeah.
And with the receiver room that Hugh Freeze has put together, I think that's part of the beauty of the plan that he put together offensively is, look, I don't need to have a guy who is going to do what Cam Ward did, because I'm giving him a receiver room that can just go get it. Now, this is a little bit of an extreme example, but do you remember? Well, I know you remember because you're a 49ers fan, but Ken Dorsey had one of the greatest collection of receivers that I have ever seen at the college level in that early 2000s Miami team.
Right.
Santana Moss, Kellen Winslow Jr., all he had to do was throw the ball anywhere in their vicinity, and they were going to go get it.
Right.
Lost 2 games as a starter. Like, that's it. 2 games. And one of them was like a triple overtime natty, I believe, versus Ohio State. And he did not get drafted. Or if he did, it was like 7th round, last pick in the 7th round or something. Dude, I'm telling you, they put dogs around him at receiver. And that's how Hugh Freeze feels about the passing game. Let me just put dogs around my quarterback, and then if he throws it up, those guys will go get it.
For sure. And then let's be clear, he's got them.
He does.
He got a bunch of them.
Yeah. Cam Coleman is that dude. I think Perry Thompson is that dude. Eric Singleton is that guy. We'll see if Horatio Fields will do it. But Malcolm Simmons is that guy. Bryce Cain's still waiting in the wings. They got dogs at wide receiver. Yeah. So if you're Jackson Arnold, what an advantageous situation to walk into. You get to stay in the SEC. You get to stay in the best conference in college football. And make no mistake, it's still the best.
Yeah.
Now, we've taken over basketball, too, but it's still the best in football. And you get a bunch of weapons.
Baseball and softball and gymnastics.
Baseball
and
track is ridiculous right now. Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah.
Everything school, everything conference.
Yeah.
But if you're Jackson Arnold, you had to be happy with what you saw on paper at the receiver position, because, boy, they're going to make him look great this year. And if you combine accuracy with, it's one thing to put it up and let those guys go get it. It's another thing when the quarterback is throwing dots to 5-star receivers.
Right.
And in the situations where we've seen that happen, you see records are broken.
Right. That's when you get the LSUs and the prime Bama passing years, where it's just like, bro, like what, or the Ohio State situations where it's like what do you want me, like who do you want me to guard in this situation, bro? Because like every one of these guys is ridiculous. So if we double team this guy, how are we supposed to prevent this guy from getting the football? And when he does, he's a home run threat the minute he touches. Like, this isn't fair. Like, you're hoping you get to the place where you start to say, this is not fair that this quarterback gets to be able to throw to all of these guys. And they're just scheming somebody open. And it becomes ridiculous for that offense to be able to go out there and produce.
Yeah, man. I think this is a pro example, but we knew Tom Brady was a good quarterback. We knew Randy Moss was a good receiver. The year they put them together, they set the record for most touchdowns thrown and most touchdowns caught in a single season.
Right.
It was absolutely prolific. But Randy Moss wasn't having, he had the ability to bail Tom Brady out, but he didn't have to do that most of the time.
Yeah, but Tom Brady knew that. He was like, man, I could just throw this anywhere in the vicinity, Randy.
So if you're Hugh Freeze, you have to have one or the other, at least in the passing game. You got to have a quarterback that's going to throw guys open and make average receivers look good, or you need excellent receivers that can make an average quarterback look great. And I think he thinks, and I think I agree with him, that it's easier to go find the receivers than it is to find that dude at quarterback.
Much easier. Way easier. Way easier. And that's no disrespect to the talented wide receivers that are out there, but there are talented receivers everywhere. Now do those guys have the clutch to be able to make the play in the moment? But yeah, there's guys who, if you put them against 80% of the talent, they'll go out there and dominate 100% of the time against those guys. It's that next tier of guy who you're putting them against the best, and they're still going out there and dominating. That's what we have to see whether or not. I think Cam Coleman has that in him. Like, I don't recall. He had some issues earlier in his career last year where he was dropping some passes that he should not have. But as you saw him get into those games where Auburn was needing wins, Cam Coleman was producing on a consistent basis. So he might be every bit of him that we thought he was going to be going into last year.
Yeah. Look, it's one something's got to give. But when Hugh Freeze got hired, he preached repeatedly about having receivers with catch radius that could go up in this league and get the ball.
Right.
That's why he in his past he recruited guys like AJ Brown and DJ Metcalf and those guys. Just felt like if I have those dudes, we can be dangerous, and those teams were dangerous.
Yeah.
He beat Nick Saban twice with that formula. I don't think it's changed much. I don't think it's changed much. So
I mean, football is football. Like, you just, listen, you go out there and if you have the best players, you have the opportunity to win most games. And so that is what Hugh Freeze's formula has been. Let me just recruit the best players, and we'll have a shot to win most games. Anthony Long says, if Hugh Freeze has a 7-5 record this season, how should we feel about him going forward? Anthony, I can't tell you how to feel about that, but if you're asking me how I would feel, I can give you the answer. I'm gonna let Mike G start, but I can give you an answer how I would feel, but I can't tell you how you should feel.
Well, it depends on which 7.
That's a good place to start.
It depends on which 7. So now see, you're gonna make me pull it up here. Auburn football 2025 schedule. So you get it kicked off with what, Baylor?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think you got to beat Baylor. You're at Baylor, but I think you have to beat Baylor. And then
if you don't beat Baylor, your season's probably starting off kind of ugly. So yes.
Yeah, and then you get Jackson versus Oklahoma early in the season. Love that for Auburn.
At Oklahoma to boot.
Hopefully, we're looking at a 3-1 start at worst. After that, you have a stretch that sees you play A&M, Georgia, and Missouri. Back to back to back.
Tough.
There's a break. There's a bye week between A&M and Georgia.
Don't know what Missouri's going to look like next year, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm in a place in my life where I hope they fail at everything, but hear me out. So, in that stretch, I think you got to get 2.
Okay. You
I
said
don't think
Georgia,
you can go 1
Texas A&M, and Missouri. You need to get 2 of those.
I think you need to get 2. I think you need to beat A&M in Missouri. Right.
Okay. So they've won at least 5 games to that point in the season out of what, 7?
Yeah. So you're 5-2 potentially.
Okay.
Right. The next stretch is Arkansas, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt Mercer. All those games should be winnable.
Yes.
Not gonna win them all.
You're at potentially 8 or 9 wins already.
So my question, Anthony, is of Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, or Mercer, which one of those games do you think should be losable at this point? I don't think you should be able to lose any of them personally, but that's just me.
Arkansas, I think, will be tough. I need to take a look at what their defense is going to look like, because I think another year in that system with Paterno, with a quarterback coming back to back there. I don't know what his weapons are looking like. Armstrong's gone. Tatania's gone. I think they picked up some guys. I don't know. That's going to be difficult.
Right. So at that point, right.
By the way, I just saw Chase's comment, screw Diego Pavia and whatever number you think he has for Auburn.
Because that guy be out of eligibility already. So you're on a 4-game winning streak at that point, which puts you at 9-2 going into the Iron Bowl. Now, do I think they'll be 9-2? Probably not. However, 7-5 means that you had a really rough start to the season, and you had to go on an epic run over the back half to get to 7-5 with who they play in the first half, right? And that's where all your potential losses are at. From Baylor on down to Missouri, there are 2 guaranteed wins on this schedule in Ball State and South Alabama. Outside of that, the rest of them are conference games. And realistically, none of them are gimmies. So at 7-5, I almost am like, I don't know how good I feel at 7-5.
Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing. Your 5 losses that would be, and I use this word lightly, acceptable, would have to be Bama and Georgia, which you hate to say off the rip because you are another year where you beat neither of your rivals. On the road at Oklahoma, just because I expect Oklahoma to be better. It's a tough road environment early in the season. But like, what are the other 2 losses that you're going to walk away feeling good about other than those 3? You don't feel good about opening the season with a loss at Baylor.
Right.
You don't feel good about losing back-to-back years to Vanderbilt or Arkansas. You don't feel good about losing to Kentucky, who you mopped last year at home now this year. I don't know that you feel good about losing 3 other games on this schedule.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a hard Missouri, again, I don't even know what Missouri is going to look like this year. So I have a hard time saying, oh, Auburn's going to lose. Like, I just don't know where there are 3 more losses on that schedule that you feel good about. And so it's hard for me to say I feel good about a 7-5 season today without seeing the circumstances that led to that. Because just looking at the schedule and who you play and where you play them and all this kind of stuff, you're hoping you beat one of your rivals. You sneak them at home, one of them at least this year.
Right.
You hope you don't open the season losing to Baylor on the road. You hope that you don't lose to Kentucky at home. You hope that you don't have back-to-back losses to Vanderbilt on your schedule, right? And so if you're going to sneak Bama or Georgia, that's one. If you don't lose your opener at Baylor, that's two. You got 3 other cupcakes. You get to 5. And then you can't lose to Vanderbilt back-to-back years. You can't lose to Kentucky at home. You're at 7. And you need to be able to then beat Arkansas, Oklahoma on the road, Missouri, or Texas A&M to get to 8 wins. I don't think that that's crazy, and I think that that's actually a really good season considering what you have in front of you. I think 7 wins, I'm finding it tough to be optimistic about what I think of Coach Hugh Freeze as a coach at that point in time.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, again, circumstances will have to be crazy for me to be like, oh, well, this, and like you got to do a lot of John Cohen-esque explaining away.
He did backflips trying to explain how they landed up where they were at. And I just don't think, I think he exhausted all those excuses last year. I understand why he did it, but this year the excuses are gone. This is a show me year. 7-5. You have not taken significant steps forward, I think, at 7-5.
Yeah, like I said,
right.
Something that I can't foresee today had to happen during that season for me to look at the end of this season, see 7-5 as the record, and saying it wasn't that bad when you look at it.
We're headed the right direction. Yeah, we're headed the right direction.
I know it's more wins, but it just is not going to feel like a victory to me. Exclusive TV says A-Day is free this weekend, right? You are correct. Before we get to the rest of these chats, let's go ahead and give you guys the information about A-Day in case you didn't know. And I'm reading this directly from the press release from Auburn. It says Auburn's A-Day weekend on the Plains presented by Golden Flake will feature a full weekend of activities on the Auburn campus, including Auburn football practice inside of Jordan-Hare Stadium on Saturday, a post-practice fan day autograph session, along with Auburn baseball, softball, and women's tennis all at home. So this is the full weekend. The days that you all are concerned about, which is A-Day, Jordan-Hare gates open at 11 a.m. on A-Day with an alumni flag football game starting at 11. Tiger Walk is at 11:30, and A-Day practice will begin at noon with practice concluding at 1 p.m. So you get a 1-hour practice window there. Post-practice, the fan day autograph session featuring Coach Hugh Freeze and the Auburn players will take place at Pat Dye Field, at Jordan-Hare Stadium and will last 90 minutes and will take place of a fan day in August during fall camp. So that is the schedule of activities for Saturday. Softball versus Georgia will be directly after that at 3 p.m. And then baseball versus LSU will be at 6 p.m. on Saturday. So you got a full day there, starting actually at the Tiger Trail induction ceremony at 9 a.m. In the complex, the athletic complex. So full day there on Saturday for Auburn with football activities going into softball and baseball later in the evening. But yes, free.
It'll be fun to see these quarterbacks spin it. I think fans should look forward to that. Since it's free, I encourage everybody to show up and see for your own eyes, right? What these guys are capable of. There are some things that you can't. I mean, you're not going to learn anything really about how these guys are going to play situational football from this, but it is fun, I think, for me at least, to get an idea of how talented and gifted these guys are doing what they do. One year, I was living in New Jersey, and I don't know if you guys remember former Auburn lineman King Dunlap, good friend of ours, friend of the show. King was playing for the Eagles, and the Eagles were playing the Saints the year the Saints won the Super Bowl. It was either the first game of the season or it was one of the first games of the season. I remember the first time I saw Drew Brees throw a football like live, and I was like, good God, he's talented. Like, if you just never seen Drew Brees throw, he could spin it. Man, that guy could spin it. And the Saints won that game. Obviously, it was a great season for them because they win the Super Bowl that year. But I want fans to show up and see Deuce and Jackson spin it. It's really fun to watch those guys throw. They're extremely talented. And so, again, sometimes it's hard to get an idea for how talented they are until you've seen them throw.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different, right? When you see like the velocity and all of that stuff from a quarterback that's got like true arm talent. There was I don't know if you guys remember when Jared Goff went undercover to practice that one time, he was pretending he was like a walk-on or something like that, and he was going to this, I think I forgot what level college it was, but he's just going out there throwing around, and the coaches were immediately like, yo, who is this? Because the ball spins out of the hand differently when you've got one of those kind of arms. It just does. And it's hard to explain until you see somebody do it, and you're just like, oh no,
he's different.
He's way different, bro. Like, and it's not even about like, because Jared Goff was kind of covered up. He's tall, but then when you see him spin it, you're like, nah, like that's not coming off of his arm the same way as it does the rest of these quarterbacks out here. This dude's got a different kind. It's very live when you see him spin it. And so, yeah, to your point, I think it will give you a different sense of what you can expect when you just go see it in person.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's free this year. I encourage everybody to go. Not that it was super expensive to go see AA before. It was like, what, $10?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Like maximum. But yeah, go out this year. I think it's what's the weather like this Saturday?
It's a good question. I haven't looked at it at all.
They've been getting some weird weather lately.
Yeah, it was freaking random cold snap came through this week. So while you're looking that up, Exclusive TV with another super chat who says, who are y'all excited to see perform Saturday? I mean, of course, the quarterbacks, because that is what everybody wants to see. But the guys who I have not had an opportunity to sit here and I've mentioned it. Really, Alvin Henderson's high on your list. Okay.
Alvin Henderson.
Listen, man, it's these wide receivers for me, man. Like, I just want to see talking about watching a quarterback spin it is the same way I think when you see receivers like really running, like wide open, and you're just like, nah, this dude moves differently. Like I've seen guys run routes when he's out there running, he's moving at a different speed than everybody else. When he goes up to get it, it's different. When he snatches it out the air, it's different. And there's some guys in this wide receiver room that just have that, like, yo, like this dude it's impressive. It's not just, oh, you saw that highlight of him making this one-handed catch. Like, and that's one of the things, like, I'm sorry, I just don't get into a hype on a lot of guys when I see them. But man, I'm buying the hype on a couple of guys right now based upon some of the things that I've seen and some of the things that I've heard. And one of those guys is Sam Turner. Sam Turner, I heard, is out there.
Okay.
Really, like, he's been very impressive as a true freshman coming into this system. Heard good things about just his work ethic coming in, but just his ability to go get it and his knowledge of where he's supposed to be type stuff has been impressive with guys. And then you're seeing that the room, as far as speed is concerned, is definitely as advertised out there, right? Like, Eric Singleton, like, he can really go. Like, when Eric Singleton opens up and he's going full speed, it's a different gear than other guys are going when they're out there. So those are two guys who I am excited to see kind of what they are like, because listen, the defensive backs that Auburn has, that's one of the places where I thought that this defense was going to be stout next year. Like, they're stacked all over the place with DBs who can cover, who can go out there and be physical but those DBs aren't just having their way with this receiver room. And so that makes me feel like, oh, okay, DJ Durkin and his wonderful scheming defense with guys in additional years are not just absolutely embarrassing this offense. Okay, we might have some players over there then.
You know, it was interesting was I tweeted about Deuce not throwing any picks so far this spring, and a bunch of Bama fans came through and they were like, of course he looks good against that defense. And I was like, they were a top 25 defense last year. I don't What are you guys talking about? I don't understand.
Listen, I think that I could take 2 pennies and rub them together and get more football knowledge out of that than I could from the vast majority of Bama fans on
Oh
Twitter.
my
So
goodness. I was like, what are you guys talking about? You just say anything positive about Auburn. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe a lot of them just came through just spewing negativity immediately about Deuce. And I'm thinking, like, hey, it's a report about the young 5-star. I mean, what did Deuce finish in terms of the 2025 recruiting rankings? I think he was was he a top 30 guy?
I don't know the answer to that.
Um, and Chad helped me out here. Where did Deuce finish? It was pretty high. Like he moved up the rankings like quite a bit. Let me see if I could find Malik Austri, 25th.
That's a guy whose name I have not heard called a lot. I've heard a lot about
56. 247 had ranked 56.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Crawford there on the defensive line. I have not heard a lot about Malik Autry, but like that just kind of goes to show you how ridiculously deep this defensive line room is going to be as well, man. Like there's just Coach Hugh Freeze went and got dudes like he said he was going to. And this isn't even what he would consider his final form. Like he still feels like he's one class away from being like championship level at all spots. But
yeah.
Man, like the talent level that is stacked in these rooms is impressive. Like there are 2 and 3 rotations deep of guys where you're like, oh man, and that dude, oh and him, oh and him.
On 3 had Deuce ranked 25th, and because he gained a 5th star from On 3. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't know why everybody's shocked that there's high expectations on a top 25 recruit in the country. And if we go by, and we'll use the On 3 rankings because clearly, they think Deuce is better than the other 2. Bryce Underwood went to Michigan. He was the number 1 overall recruit. I'm talking about QBs. Keelan Russell went to Bama at the number 2 recruit. Tavion St. Clair went to Ohio State. I mean, this is tough company that Deuce is in here with at quarterback. Husan Longstreet went to USC. And then there's Deuce. So, there was only 4 quarterbacks ranked ahead of him in this class. To be a top 5 at your position, man, this was a deep class of high school quarterbacks that came out this year. So yeah, I'm excited to see Deuce. I think fans should be excited to see Deuce, but I'm just as excited to see Jackson Arnold on Saturday.
For sure.
Yeah, it's easy to get excited about the young guys coming out of high school and kind of, and the portal guys for whatever reason, man, they don't, especially at quarterback, they don't get as much love, I think, unless you were like the best quarterback in the portal.
Yeah,
I'm sure Miami
difficult.
fans were excited about Cam Ward, but
it's difficult though because of the situation he's coming out of. Like he did not play well last year, right? And statistically, he got benched, and Oklahoma fans weren't super sad to see him go for the most part, right? And so it wasn't one of those situations where he was easily the most highly sought after guy in the portal, and everybody was just like, oh man, I can't wait to see what this guy can do against these type, because Cam Ward was a guy who they were like, he did it at Carter Word, let me see if he can do it somewhere else. He goes to Washington State and he does it again, and they're like, oh, but that's Pac-12, blah blah, let me see. And then he goes to the ACC. Now let's be clear, ACC is not really worth anything either, but at least it is somewhat formidable level of athleticism out there, and he's still being able to perform. And so people are like, I think with Jackson Arnold, like you've seen him against SEC defenses, and it didn't look great at times. And so, again, a lot of circumstances led to that, but the skepticism is warranted. I get it. But I go back to before you saw him play this year, when he was coming in as a true freshman and getting time, how excited people were about, like going into last season, before the season started, there were a bunch of people who were super high on Jackson Arnold. It's like, oh, he could be that guy. And there was a little bit of, we don't know because we haven't seen it yet, but it's like, man, if he lives up to his hype, he's going to be amazing. And then the season happened and everything kind of just went to hell for Oklahoma. So hopefully there will not be a repeat of that here at Auburn. But if all the stuff around him is doing well and he still doesn't perform well, then, you guys start looking and saying, hey, Jackson, it might be you, brother. It's not me, it's you. Super chat from Jazzy, who says, real question, but how do you watch a running back in this practice setting? It's a good question. I mean, I don't know what kind of reps running backs are really going to get. I mean, even in regular A-Day formats, I think that it's a little bit better to evaluate, but the only reason why it's not great evaluation on running backs, even in that setting, is because you don't have the QB run as a real threat. And so you're able to kind of just clamp down on what you expect to see from the running backs. But yeah, that's a good question. Other than just kind of watching them run and go through drills and I don't know what you really evaluate.
Yeah. I mean, the running backs are usually a lot, but that's why I said Alvin Henderson is a guy that I'm excited to see.
Yeah. Because they're gonna probably have thud, right? Like, it's not gonna be just drills. They're gonna actually do some scrimmage type stuff.
Yeah, you're not going to risk getting Damari Alston hurt or Jeremiah Cobb hurt, or you know what I mean. But and I'm not saying they're risking the health of Alvin Henderson, but they let the young guys run at that position, in these spring formats. So and a lot of times it's usually the third or fourth string that ends up being the A-Day MVP because they just get more reps than the other guys.
Right.
So I am excited to see Alvin Henderson run, and I think you don't take a lot from what you get from Damari and those guys. They've got nothing really to prove in an 8-day format. Right. Everything they have to prove is going to be done on the field on Saturdays in the fall. But these young guys definitely do.
For sure. Jim jumps in and says, I'm going through basketball withdrawals. This is something I did not think would ever come out of an Auburn fan's mouth, but we are here. I'm not hyped on Auburn football as much as I am on Auburn basketball. I'm sorry. Listen, man, after you've watched an historic season from Auburn basketball, and not arguably, if anybody's still arguing, this is the greatest Auburn basketball team that has ever graced the orange and blue in the history of that program. If you're not sad to have seen that end, then I just don't know what you've been doing for the last few months, because that was a phenomenal team to go out there and watch compete. It was a blast being able to cover them. You hate to see it end in the way that it ended, but it had to end at some point in time, and there was really only one happy ending for this story. And unfortunately, they didn't get that particular one, but you still love the process that they went through and a lot of the great things that happened along the way for that Auburn basketball team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate Jazzy Joe for jumping in with the 20 gifted memberships. So 20 more people will have access to our member content that we will be dropping out there. I got you guys covered, man. I am off the road here for a minute, so I will have an opportunity to sit down and get into some of this film. So I'll try to get this stuff cranked out for y'all here coming up over the next couple of weeks, because it's the off season. And during the off season, we watch a ton of film. So make sure that y'all get that Green Name Gang locked in. Any final thoughts, Mike G, before we get out of here tonight?
No, look, I'm sad that we're not going to get the traditional A-Day experience. It had become a production. ESPN would show up with the film crews and the production trucks and the broadcasters and the announcers. But look, we've got to adjust to this new era of spring football. Coaches are de-emphasizing what it used to be in the past, because they want to keep their players healthy and they want to put a stronger emphasis on strength and conditioning during this time. It's useless. Hugh Freeze had talked about maybe playing a game against another in-state school and donating the proceeds to charity. I still like those ideas, and I hope that those ideas aren't off the table. Where if you're going to do it, at least do some good, for the less fortunate in the state, or raise money for cancer, patients or something. I still think there's some use to that, but I like the idea of protecting the players, because ultimately that protects the product in the fall.
Right.
Right. If a player has an injury with a 4 to 5 month recovery time at this point, it weakens the product that we see in the fall when the best players aren't on the field. because they got hurt during the spring.
There's quite a few offensive line guys that are hurt right now, and so like I don't even like you would go out there and watch the defensive line go out there and just wreck plays over and over again. I don't know how fun that would be for fans anyway. So
yeah, so that's where I'm at about it. Like I said, it's spring, such a weird spring with basketball doing so well.
Right.
We couldn't split our focus here. I think that Auburn basketball earned our full attention going all the way to the Final Four. Didn't end the way that we wanted it to. As a matter of fact, like we were hoping to still be in San Antonio on Monday. And, we could have stayed to watch that championship game. We did not. Did not care, honestly. But now it's time to talk football here. We did get a little bit of news. Ja'Kai Howard hit the portal.
Yeah.
That young man is out of here. I don't think
he left the door open to come back potentially. So, I think he'll test the waters and see kind of what's happening there. And I think that Auburn would welcome him back if he decided that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I do too. Man, and talking to him in the locker room before and after games during the tournament, he was, for all intents and purposes, he was a team player. I know he had some very publicized crash outs during the season, but as the season went along, all indications are he matured during the season. And I think he understood it a little bit. And here's where, if you're Ja'Kai Howard, I think that it's easier to accept your role on a team that won as many games as Auburn did. It's really hard to ride the pine while your team is losing.
Yeah.
But this is part of the benefits of winning, is it's easier to sell to kids to wait their turn. It is. And, I know he probably felt like he could have helped this basketball team a little bit more than he did. Last year just wasn't his time. And if there's a role for him, hopefully they carve that out next year. I mean, there are going to be some guys that are gone. I think Denver's out of eligibility, right? Like he's gone, right? We don't know. Do we know about Chaney yet?
Not certain about Chaney Johnson yet, no.
Right. And if you're Ja'Kai, Bruce Pearl plays a lot of guys. So you're going to get minutes. Now, if you're looking to play 35, 36 minutes a game, that's probably not happening. But, there are 25 minutes a game for him next year, I'm certain. No matter
I don't know. Yeah, listen, I want to have a whole conversation about the reload that's got to happen on Auburn basketball. And we don't have enough time to get into that tonight. But this offseason, I think this is going to be one of the more interesting basketball off seasons that we've had an opportunity to cover, just because I think there's going to be so much on the heels of this historic season of trying to figure out what's next for Auburn basketball. And I'm excited to talk about that.
Indeed.
All right. Well, let's get out of here, man, and tell the people other ways that they can support what we got going on. So much stuff yet to come here at the War Report.
First and foremost, I want to thank our title sponsor, the Rage Room. If you're in the Auburn, Opelika area and you're looking to get some rage out, do it with our friends at the Rage Room. You can find them at 1510 2nd Ave in Opelika, Alabama, or if you're in the Birmingham area, 2616 7th Ave, South Birmingham. They got axe throwing up there in Birmingham, so don't miss out on that. Also, want to thank everybody who gifted memberships during this live cast. We appreciate you for helping us grow the Green Name Gang. But sign up, guys. Help keep the work that we're doing going. As I mentioned, Media Days is coming. We will be there. Ike and I have been spending a lot of time on the road together covering Auburn sports. That work never stops. So next stop will be Atlanta for Media Days at the College Football Hall of Fame. We are going to have a ton of fun covering what the coaches have to say there. So, again, support the work that we're doing there. Visit RogueShop.com. Use code REPORTER to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment as well. And also our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're in the Phoenix City, Columbus area, or if you're in Auburn, Opelika, you don't mind the drive down, visit the Vibe Vault at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye, Phoenix City, Alabama. That's Highway 431, right across from Chattahoochee Valley Community College. My guy Steve over there, keeping the community looking clean here this spring. So if you're looking for a good haircut, the Vibe Vault has barbers you can trust. And like I know Ike, the relationship between a man and his barber is sacred.
I don't have hair, so it's a little difficult.
We've talked about that. Somebody's got to maintain the beard. And they do that too at the Vibe Vault. So please go visit them. Again, great sponsors of the War for.
Yes, indeed. And make sure that you all like this video before you get out of here. Subscribe to the channel. Share the content with somebody. We'll be back at you with more great stuff later on this week. But we are out of here. Well, I got to do this before we get out of here. And if you're not Green Name Gang, then this is going to sound crazy. But I'm going to say it because he super chatted. Jazzy says, I'm missing some legit ass meats. Pause. If you know, you know. I'm not telling that story. Green Name Gang, you've already heard the story of legit ass meats, but it's a real thing. Yeah, we're out of here on that note. But until the next time, and as always, War Eagle. Peace, y'all.